Fine. So actually we are done till module 4. In module 4, I already told we are left with a small topic called as bidirectional RNNs slash LSTMs. Okay. So this is a small topic that was left. We'll just complete this today and we'll jump to module 5. I hope you can see my screen, guys. If not, just let me know. Okay. So the topics that are left of one more additional topic that I want to tell you in the module for itself. Of course, it's not there in the syllabus, but I just want to tell you that. So this topic, an additional topic, which is like very, very close to the architecture that you have learned in LSTM, that is deep RNNs. Deep RNNs. Now, if you observe carefully from the beginning, the architecture of neural network, or like the architecture of LSTM to be precise, I'm writing in, I'm sketching in one way. For example, this is my input, hidden state, and if I assume that it's the parts of speech tagging, I have a parts of speech tag associated with every input. So this is one neural network where I have one input layer, one hidden layer, and one output layer. Now this hidden state is connected to the next hidden state, next input, and next output. Again, this next hidden state, next input, next out. But if you see, the common thing across these multiple artificial neural networks is all of them have only one hidden layer. Only one hidden layer. So the concept here is, why should we only consider one hidden layer? Can't I have multiple hidden layers? Can I really have it? Yes. So if I extend this same network for multiple hidden layers, it becomes deep recurrent neural network, as the name itself indicates, deep. Now, how does it look like? It's same, exactly same. Instead of one hidden layer, I'll just have multiple hidden layers. That's all. Maybe I'll just draw for your convenience. So 1, 2, 3 inputs, 4 inputs. I assume that I have 4 inputs. Let me change the color. And this is hidden layer 1, hidden layer 2, maybe hidden layer 3. This is hidden layer 1, hidden layer 2, hidden layer 3, again hidden layer 1, hidden layer 2. See, I'm just using like different shapes, but it's okay, some representation. And finally, we'll have the output layer. And these will be connected. So this is independent. See, if you see, this is one deep neural network. This is another deep neural network. This is another deep neural network. But you know, if I want to build deep RNN, there should be connections between one deep neural network and other deep neural network. So the connections you already know. Okay. So I'll just connect like this, like this, like this, because every hidden state is a hidden state output is given as input to the next hidden state. So this is actually deep neural network in the context of RNNs. Now, for example, I just want to summarize this in a much more better way. Assume that this is a layer 1, layer 2, and layer 3. 3 hidden layers I have. This is input layer and this is output layer. If maybe I'll just consider this. How this is technically denoted, if you look into the deep RNN based papers, they'll denote this as H2, or maybe I'll just make it as anything is fine. So just a second. Okay. It is denoted as H3 of 2. That is nothing but this is basically a layer number, second hidden layer. And what is this subscript? It is third. Why it is third? Because in this particular layer, the hidden state is third. 1, 2, 3. So it is generated as H3 of 2. Now, what is the input of H3 of 2? What is the input of H3 of 2? How do I get that? Let us write it. Okay, let me write it in a generic way. HT of L, where L is the layer number and T is the timestamp. This is timestamp 1, timestamp 2, and timestamp 3. Now, what is the input for this? We'll have two inputs. So, one input for this is this one, and another input is this one. Because we are presently working on this particular state, so we'll have two inputs. So, HT of L, HT minus 1 L, HTL minus 1. Am I right? You understood? Is the notation clear, guys? Let us see this. Maybe I'll write an example for this. Let me take a very different color. Yeah. So this is H3 of 2, this particular one. And H3 of 2, we get two inputs for that. One is, in our case, what is T? T is 3, L is 2. Now, this is nothing but H3, and this layer is 1. Layer 1. H3, third timestamp of layer 1. And what is this labeled as? It is basically H2, layer number 2. Sorry, it's timestamp 2. Sorry, it's not H2. H2 is basically timestamp 2. This is timestamp 1, and this is timestamp 2. And belongs to which layer? It belongs to second layer. Okay, so this is nothing but H2 of 2, and this is basically H3 of 1, and this and this one is supplied as input to H3 of 2. See, I'm just putting that in simple terminologies. Even though you don't understand it very well, it's okay, because you can derive this very easily. You can have your own notation. Sir, why did you put layer number in the superscript and the timestamp in the subscript? If you want to change, you can change it. But in papers, in most of the deep RNN papers, they just follow this notation. Okay. Now, sir, basically you're telling that in traditional LSTMs or RNNs that we have discussed, we'll have one input layer, one hidden layer, and one output layer. Again, one input layer, one hidden layer, one output layer, and these hidden layers are connected. Now you're telling that multiple hidden layers in each neural network you'll have. For every artificial neural network, when I have multiple hidden layers, it becomes deep neural network. Particularly here, it is deep RNN, because there is connections between one hidden layer to the other hidden layer. So that's all. That's all you need to remember. Fine. But what is the real-time application of you need to know, right? What is a real-time application? There are many applications now. See, you should have this question in your mind. Actually, I told this concept without exactly giving you the name, that it is deep RNN. While we're discussing about RNN itself, I told that input layer and output layer will have multiple hidden layers. Multiple hidden layers. Okay, but I did not tell you the name at that point because you'll get confused. So because we are building the concept one by one. Okay, so whatever. At the end of the day, what is the main application of, or what is the main use of having deep RNNs? See, what we do here is, for every input we get output, and that cannot be modeled by using single hidden layer. Cannot be modeled by single hidden layer. We want multiple hidden layers so that all the abstract representation of the input is captured by n number of hidden layers. And even Google uses deep RNNs for many of their applications. For example, I think many of you have used Google Translate. Even Google has published a paper saying that it uses deep RNNs to perform Google Translate. That much powerful it is. Okay, RNNs itself are powerful, but when you have ensembled hidden layers for every artificial neural network that you have, then it create a lot of uses or a lot of applications to many use cases. Okay, you can imagine the entire Google Translate fundamental architecture is deep RNN. Okay, so this is not there in your syllabus, but I just want to tell you as part of, like, because it's very whenever you are taking any NLP tasks or NLP projects, it's highly recommended that you start testing your application with this architecture. Okay, so regarding the projects, hopefully I think I'll give you the complete guidelines maybe in the next maybe in the tomorrow's class, but prepare well for the project second review, because we'll have third review also. Okay, I think once you're done with the second review, I'll give you the inputs on what directions you have to proceed, but mostly the second review will be the final, like, I want the majority of your work to be completed by the second review that we are mostly planning by this weekend. And then we will see what are the minor things that you have to modify. So please do not keep major chunk of the project uncompleted. Complete as much as you can, and then we'll have the discussion. I think tomorrow is the deadline for your project submission also, not projects, lab submissions, lab assignments. So try to complete that by tomorrow evening. And because immediately we'll download all your assignments and we'll already started correcting. And we'll, because late submissions, because already have given a lot of time, a lot of time. So please do it by tomorrow midnight, because from day after tomorrow we'll download all of them and we'll start correcting, and later submissions may not be considered. Please understand our situation unless until your health is very bad or it's your health is not supporting. At that time maybe we can extend 1 or 2 days more, but otherwise you have to upload by tomorrow midnight. Okay, with videos. Video recording is mandated, and ensure that while you're doing video recording, ensure that the unique selling points, the unique points that you have spent a lot of time should be highlighted. Along with that, I also want you to show the output. Some of the videos that I've seen, they're not showing the outputs. How do we believe that the output came? So outputs, at least the major outputs of your entire explanation should be clearly visible in the video. Fine. So let us come back to this. So the first architecture that's an extension of module 4 is deep RNN. So this is one point that you have to remember, or one architecture that you can extend from the knowledge that you have. Next, the last topic that was left, module 4, the last topic that was left is bidirectional RNNs or LSTMs. Okay. So we will see this. This is a very, very interesting topic, and by now you should get it out. If you observe from the beginning, the hidden layer 1 abstract representation is given to the next hidden layer H2. This is given to H3. For example, if I just want to predict the missing letter of a word, is this only sufficient? For example, maybe I'll just be very, very specific. For example, take this BR, maybe E, A, D. Now, if you see, assume that I'm doing OCR. OCR, I think many of you know about this. It's one of the fundamental application of computer vision. So, optical character recognition. That means it takes the handwritten characters and analyzes that and converts that into type of text. Okay, now I think let us try this. Okay, I think I have this in my add convert to text. So it converted. Okay, okay. Let us. Yeah, fine. So now, if you see, even though the E has not been written well, it's not exactly looking like E. My OCR could convert, my optical character recognition could convert it perfectly as bread. Why? Because here also internally it first take B and guesses the next letter, assume that it guessed R, and since the next letter was missing, the entire letter was missing. I'm not sure what is that, because even the letter is missing, a letter was completely unreadable, whatever. In my optical character recognition, I could not understand that. Then what I do is, why should I stop predicting the next letter? I can predict. I can predict, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure to what extent I'm correct, because the entire letter was missing. Okay. So what should I do? I need to also look at the letters from the back, like this and like this. Now, once you know B and R, and once you know A and D perfectly, because they were written well, they're written very, 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 very well by the human, so you can easily recognize. Since this is not written well, you can't recognize and you can't understand what the user has written. But based on B, R, and AD, now you can guess what is this very easily. And even though you don't understand what human has written, I can guess it. That's what my iPad has done it. Okay, so that means sometimes the hidden state 1 not only depends on hidden state 2, sometimes the hidden state H5 influences H4, influences H3, influences H2. That means the influence will not be only in forward direction, the influence will also be can also be in the opposite direction. This is a very, very, very important concept, and a very, very important concept. The influence of first abstract presentation will not always influence the next abstract representation. It can be on the other part also. For example, how do I put it in? Maybe we'll see some examples. We'll see some examples at a later point. This is my input 1. Okay, and intermediate output is H1. This is my input 2, and this is H2, and this is H3. Sorry, I3, and this is H3, and input 5, 4, and this is H4. Now, in traditional RNN, we just connect like this, because the input 1 abstract representation is denoted as H1, and maybe I'll just put O1 output, O2 output, and this is O3 output, and this is O4 output. Now, this hidden state H2 receives input from I2 and from H1, and to finally get O2. Now the question is, why H2 should receive the input only from H1 and I2? Definitely sometimes the H3 can influence H2, but that influence was not there here. H1 is influencing H2, H2 is influencing H3 to get O3. But sometimes here in this case, the A and D are influencing to give E perfectly. To give E perfectly. That means sometimes the H3, H4 should influence H3, H3 should influence H2, H2 should influence H1. That means bidirectional. These influences in the forward direction and the influences in the backward direction will really help to understand the entire context. You will not realize, guys, this importance. I already told last time. There is a concept called BERT. This was introduced by Google. Basically, it's a transformer. And even your Google search uses this BERT transformer. BERT transformer is bidirectional. Is bidirectional. That means whenever you type any Google search query, it will not only analyze what you have typed in the forward direction, it also analyzes what you have typed in the backward direction, so that it understands the context very, very, very well. That's the reason you have not seen Google to work well maybe like 5, 6 years back, or maybe 4 years back. Hardly this was introduced 2.5 years back, 2.5, 3 years back. So whatever you type, it used to come mostly. But now, even though the synonyms were changed or the context was for example, I want certain thing and I typed Q1, and you want the same thing, but you typed Q2. But earlier we used to get different search results. Of course, that will be different based on your previous history. But if I open in incognito and if I type one query and another query, but both of them expect the same websites or same links, then now it was so intelligent, it understands even the same sentence typed in different ways, it could relate to the same context and give the similar links because of this bidirectional nature, which was precisely being used by Google. Okay, so the fundamental foundation for the Google to introduce BERT, even in their paper they said that if you read the BERT paper, they'll say the foundation for the BERT to be released or to be used for the Google search is this bidirectional RNNs. Bidirectional RNNs is the fundamental stone or a fundamental block for them to introduce BERT or any other bidirectional transformers. Okay. Now, let us try to visualize this, how exactly it looks, bidirectional RNNs. Bidirectional RNNs. I just told the intuition for you. See, whether it's bidirectional or non-bidirectional, the basic structure remains the same. For example, I have input x1, input x2, input x3. Okay, I have hidden state h1. Okay, for this, I'm denoting this as h1 forward direction because I'll have backward h1 also. Okay, so now I'll from x2 I'll also have h2 forward, and from x3 I'll have h3 forward. Similarly, what I do is I will also start from the last input x3, and based on this I'll get h3 backward, and again I forward, again I just back propagate, it's h2 backward direction and h1 backward direction. Okay, now your ht, if I want to write the equations for this, ht forward direction, it is basically just they traditionally use tan h function, w ht minus 1 plus u xt plus b. If you observe, this is ht minus 1 forward direction, and all these are forward directions. So forward direction weights, forward direction weights, forward direction weights. Of course, x3 is fine. So x3 is input, whether it's forward direction or backward direction doesn't matter. So this is about the hidden representations for ht. Then on a similar note, it will be ht backward direction. Here it is tan h w in the opposite direction. Weights will differ because I'm trying to establish the relation from the backward. See, it's very, very simple, Nana. See, for example, if I have given you a word to read in the forward direction, you will write. For example, I give certain word called computer. Okay, when I start writing, maybe COM, when I start writing P, when you start writing U, when I start writing T, then you can guess. Your mind will tell, oh, Star is writing computer. But now assume that I'm writing some other word. Now your analysis will be different. Now can you guess? I'm writing from the back. Now can you guess what is the word that I'm writing? It will be difficult for you because your mind has been tuned from the beginning. Our school teachers trying to write the words in the forward direction, trying to write sentences in the forward direction. For example, I am learning RNN. Okay, then maybe I'll take very simple sentence, not even this complicated, very common sentence. If I take how are Okay, when I start writing the sentence, then you could guess, oh, sir is asking me, how are you? Before I write this, you could guess it. But if I write some sentence, maybe um, like this, I'm writing last word. What is the before word? Can you guess it? It's difficult for you because we are not being trained for that. But when you write long sentences, if instead of understanding the context only in the forward direction, understanding the context in the backward direction is very, very important. But understanding the forward direction, if you have the weights W forward direction, using the same weights, you cannot understand a different context in the reverse direction. As we need to train our or tune up our mind to change the understanding. Similarly, if the system needs to even understand the context from the back side, like, from the other side of the sentence, then the weights should be different. So that's the reason we are using a different set of weight matrices. Okay, so this is very, very important, guys, for you to understand the transformers concept, the BERT concept in the upcoming semesters if you take any NLP course. Okay, so that's the reason I have different weights. HT here, this is again another different thing you need to be very careful here. XT, I don't want to write this. This is because input is same. Plus B. B in the forward direction, B in the backward direction. Now, see, HT minus 1, this also will not change actually. So you can keep it like this. Fine. Only the weights will change in the forward and backward direction. Fine. Now, this is already known equation to you guys. This is already HT minus 1 and UXT, because if you observe this particular thing, okay, it takes H2 takes input from H1 and X2. H2 takes input from X2 and H1. So this is U matrix and W matrix. So U into XT, W into HT minus 1 and the bias. But now I just want in the backward direction. I want in the backward direction. So then what is the situation here? If you observe, I will have weights here. W backward. And for this H2, the input will be X2. That means U into X2, U into X2. But H2 receives input from, not from H1, it receives from H3. So it is nothing but H3 is nothing but HT plus 1, because T is 2 here in our case. So it is HT plus 1. So W into H3 plus U into X2 plus B bar. So this is HT in the reverse direction. Okay. Now I have the context for H2 forward direction, H2 backward direction. I have the context. Now I need to predict the output. Predict the output. Predict the output. Just a second. H2, I have the forward inputs and I also have backward context. Here it is different weight. Here it is different weight. The U in the forward direction, U in the backward direction is also there. U in the forward direction, U in the backward direction. Using all these, I would predict the output at this timestamp is Y2 cap. So now Y2 cap is equal to some function. It can be like, the softmax function or any other function based on the output type. If it's a regression, you don't require any softmax. If it's not a regression problem, then you require some activation function that you feel it can be sigmoid, it can be softmax. So I'm taking another weight matrix. It's V bar in the forward direction, HT bar in the forward direction. That is nothing but H2 here in our case. H2 bar in the forward direction plus V in the backward direction, H2 in the backward direction. See, whatever the hidden states that I have, I'm just multiplying that with the corresponding forward and backward V values. So based on which I would get some score of the output. Okay, whatever may be the output. For example, I'm guessing what is the next word that I'm typing. For example, I type two words. I just want to predict what is the next word. See, or maybe we'll see examples also. Will then you'll come to know. So in this case, of course, you don't have the complete context. You can't go in the backward direction unless until you type the entire sentence. You can't. For example, I want to translate. I'll tell you one example where bidirectional LSTMs are or RNNs are extremely useful. For example, I want to translate one sentence to the other sentence. Okay. For example, I don't know how many of you know about like no Telugu writing, but I'm just trying to write. Okay. So I'm just trying to write in Telugu, Nana. Okay. If you're not comfortable, just think that it's set of certain inputs. That's all. Okay. Um, what should I write? Any sample sentence? Think of. Okay. Suddenly, I'm not getting Telugu sentence. Okay, fine. So, college. I think I have um, like writing Telugu after a long many years. So then college. Okay, fine. Then college low unnanu something. Okay, fine, something like that. So if I want to convert this into English, instead of only forward propagating, if I also have the entire context in the other direction, my conversion will be very, very proper. That's the reason earlier Google Translate is like it used to translate very, very bad, but nowadays its translation is very, very better than previous years because of this bidirectional nature. Okay, so that's the reason I could guess the translated word at Y2 because this is my Telugu language. This is my maybe English language. I could guess the translated English word appropriately because I analyzed the Telugu sentence in the forward direction and as well as the backward direction. Okay, so this is the main theme of bidirectional RNNs. But if you look at bidirectional LSTMs, I have taken some screenshot. Yeah, this is the bidirectional RNNs or bidirectional LSTMs. Both are same, Nana. But I just want to tell you, instead of RNNs, we have LSTMs. That's all. Same, Nana. Exactly same. Nothing changes. For example, see here. Have an input sentence. Heart is not enlarged. Something like that. Now, this generally we tend to put input from the bottom and reach to the output towards the top, right? Here, the architecture was represented from bottom to top. Then input is here, and finally the output is here. Okay, it's okay. Representation can be anything. So input, I'm just taking, and then what I have to do? I have to understand this input in the forward direction and as well as the backward direction. So firstly, let us see this in the forward direction. So I just take this input, okay, pass it to an LSTM network, and what are the output that I got? I just keep it here, and this abstract representation is supplied to the next thing. Again, I have just only see the highlighted lines. Again, go to the forward direction, get the current input, okay, and then get the abstract representation like this. It goes on. Again, pass this, again get the abstract representation output. But along this is traditional LSTM that we have seen. But now we should also go in the backward direction. That's the reason this is my out last input word. Now I have the understanding in the other direction also. Again, I have understanding in the other direction. Again, I have understanding in the other direction. Again, I have understanding in the other direction. So what are the outputs that you got? You got 1 hot encode representations, right? Now, what are the understandings that you get? You just flatten all of them and take the predictions. So the same thing, but we try to take the forward understandings and backward understandings to finally give the output in much more accurate way. Okay, even if it's traditional RNN also. See, I just even placed LSTMs here, but the same architectures can be used for RNN, any type of RNN, bidirectional RNN. It can be LSTMs, it can be GRUs, but the same architecture can be used. Okay, so this is the main idea behind bidirectional LSTMs or bidirectional RNNs. So with this, we are done with module 4, Nana. Okay, now we will start module 5. At least the context we will set up and we'll see. Module 5. Module 5, I hope at least guys, now you have realized the importance of note making, at least I think in CAT 2. But whatever, if you are not maintaining, at least enough, at least for the last 2 modules, you try to maintain. I hope many of I came to know that many of you are maintaining. That's a good thing, but try to continue further. Okay. Module 5 is very, very familiar to you because we have seen 2 labs. We have seen 2 labs in the context of Module 5 topics. That is basically object detection. You remember, guys, we have done 2 labs. One is traditional object detection, and we also have taken some microscopic images. And I asked you to do the object detection, whether it's the target virus or not. Okay, so you have done 2 labs. I think you have been very comfortable with this. So we have seen in the classes, the labs, sorry, in the labs, we have seen YOLO version, YOLO V1. I think we have seen YOLO V3 or V4. I think you have implemented YOLO V3, but I've just shown the demo on YOLO V4. Okay, whatever. So that means YOLO versions we need to learn: YOLO V1, YOLO V2, YOLO V3, and YOLO V4. Okay, but actually, YOLO is not only the architecture for object detection. Of course, this is a state of the art and this is one of the best architectures that is being used even now. But people have not directly introduced this YOLO. People have introduced many other architectures to reach this stable object detection. Now, we don't start our discussion directly from this YOLO. Instead, we look at the history, what has happened. Then generally I get a question from my students saying that, sir, why always you look back at the history and reach to the point where the current topic is used in the market? Presently, the most popular is YOLO. I can directly start with YOLO. Na? Why I have to discuss the history back? Which these history techniques are not being used very frequently now because they are outdated. Then why should I discuss outdated topics? This is a common question that I generally get in my classes. See, thing is, Nana, it's very, very important. I don't want my students to learn the topic that was introduced by somebody else. I don't want somebody introducing. Why should you study, guys? Your thought process should be in a direction where you come up with your own architecture. You come up with your own concept. You come up with your own model. How do you know, or how do you come up with your own thought process? Unless until you know that people, YOLO is one architecture. Assume that YOLO architecture is A5. See, the people who invented YOLO could not come up with A5 directly. They analyzed what is previous A1, or how people came from A1 to A2, how people came from A1 to A3, and how people come from A3 to A4. Then they analyzed all these 4 architectures to come up with A5. Enough if you as a student understand the thought process behind the big shots of deep learning, then you will come up with your own architecture. Maybe when you join your company you will have a different requirement. You'll feel that YOLO V4 is not even suitable for your application. Then you need to come up with your own architecture. How do you come up? How do you change? Unless until you know what has happened here in the history and how they have came up with a new thought process, and that thought process will directly or indirectly will influence you. And tomorrow you will remember me at some point in your life. Then you are coming up with your own thought process. This analysis, at least if you are doing any deep learning or machine learning profiles, all the analysis that we are doing directly or indirectly will influence you. Okay, because we are moving in a pure sequenced version, pure sequence chain. Okay, so that's the reason I try to discuss the history behind reaching the stable version YOLO. Okay, that's the reason even this particular module 5, I have, it was not there previously. And when I taught the module deep learning for your seniors, this module 5 is the syllabus of module 5 is different. Okay, so because as a faculty for this, I have a liberty to change and after every semester, so I've changed this last time, so that's the reason you got the updated syllabus in this direction. Intentionally, I have added the history. What are the architectures before YOLO? I have added that in the syllabus. Okay, fine. So telling this all the relevant stuff. Again, this is our objective. Final objective is to learn YOLO architectures. But before this, I wanted to learn some other architectures, which I will tell you. Some other architectures, some architectures that maybe I'll just note it as A dash. Some architectures that you really require to learn A. And before this, there are some dependent topics. Dependent topics. For you to understand this A dash and A dash and A, these dependent topics are important. So once you are familiar with these dependent topics, then we'll jump into these two categories of architectures. Now, what are the dependent topics? The main thing is there's only one topic, but I further split this in multiple ways. Encoder decoder models. This is also very important, Nana. Very important topic for you guys. Encoder decoder. This knowledge will help you to understand these architectures well. Okay, fine. Now, what is encoder? What is decoder? Actually, you have already studied this topic, encoder and decoder, in your module 4, but I have never used the terminology encoder and decoder because I don't want to confuse you at that point. Now, why this topic came? You studied some part of this encoder decoder in your module 4, but where we will see. But why the concept encoder decoder? What is the main theme of encoder decoder? You should understand the essence. Now, till now, if you see what we have done till now, guys, we have studied DNN, we have studied CNN, and we have also studied RNN of different versions of RNN, different architectures of CNN, different like perspectives of DNN, all these things we've seen. Now, did you ever got a doubt, sir, why it should be DNN? Whenever I have an application, you're telling that if I have an application to solve, sir, you're asking us to solve either using DNN architecture, either using CNN architecture, or either using RNN architecture. There may be an application A tilde or A prime. This application can be solved if and only if I combine more than one architecture. My application that I want to solve requires a combination of DNN plus CNN, requires a combination of CNN plus RNN, requires a combination of RNN plus DNN. I don't know. There are certain applications where one architecture is not sufficient. You need to combine more than one architecture. Oh, is it so? I have to combine more than one architecture? Can I just give some examples so that you'll get connected? Yes, we'll see one example. The example is, okay, I have some screenshot here. The example is this one. What is this? What is happening here? There is a picture here and you can see a caption for this. Again, there is another picture and you can see a caption here. See how nicely the caption has been generated. A cute little dog sitting in a heart drawn on a sandy beach. How beautifully the caption has been generated. That means what? If I give the picture, system will automatically generate this caption. Automatically generate this caption, guys. How nicely it has generated. So this is basically technically named as image captioning. We have image captioning models and we have video captioning models also. One of my scholars are also working on this image captioning and video captioning. For achieving the caption for the input image, do you know guys, I need to combine CNN plus RNN. I cannot solve alone with CNN. I cannot solve alone with RNN to get the caption of the input image. I have to combine CNN and I have to combine RNN. I have to combine CNN plus RNN. But how do I combine? How do I really combine is the biggest question, right? So that we'll try to see in the next class. This is like image caption. Before I tell you, okay, otherwise we have some more time. Okay, fine. Shall I start? All right, I may not complete because I have only 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, fine. So how do I combine this CNN plus RN? So whenever we have a requirement of combining more than one architecture, we tend to use the concept of encoder and decoder models. Encoder and decoder models. We take the help of these guys. Actually, one very important point that I have to tell you: encoder and decoder is not a physical topic. That means they do not have any existence. It's just a way of notation. That's all. Without using this encoder decoder, also the CNN architecture and the RNN architecture can be combined, because encoder decoder is just a concept in terms of calling. That's all. Okay, there is no separate equations for encoder and decoder explicitly. Okay, we will come to know that in tomorrow's class. Okay, once I tune your understanding, introduce the encoder and decoder for sentiment analysis or the parts of speech tagging. Even in the sentiment analysis LSTM architecture, even the parts of speech tagging architecture that you have seen, encoder and decoder already existed, that you have not seen that. I'll take the previous architecture, sentiment analysis and POS, parts of speech tagging architectures, and I'll show you where the encoder is there, where exactly decoder exists in those applications. And then slowly we'll jump into the image captioning, where I need to combine different architectures instead of homogeneous architectures, and then slowly link up to study this object detection architectures. So what is the sequence that we are going to do in entire module 5? So we're going to learn, we have only 3 main topics, Nana. Encoder decoder models, that we'll see in the next class, and then we'll have some architectures, okay, in the history that we have based on A prime. We'll learn the main architecture A, which is nothing but YOLO. So this is the main sequence that we'll try to follow for module 5. Okay, so once this is done, then we'll slowly jump into module 6. Okay, so that's all for the day, guys. And
Sir,
sorry, tell me, Nana.
sir, can you tell some API services other than Rapid API, sir?
Just a second, Nana. Let me